Mm-hmm. 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 Surprise, traders!
Let's go. I wake up to a
How's it
little
going,
bit of
guys? Yes,
drool on
I'm
my
wearing a
pillow, feel like it's gonna be a
salmon-colored
day.
shirt. But today we're going to be covering Sunday Techstocks. Now, in case you guys missed it, we did a little post talking about how we want to grow a more structured schedule for the community, right? Growing into AI tech, but still covering the basis of what we believe in on this channel, which that small caps are going to outperform the S&P 500 in the near-term future. However, I wanted to cover three stocks today: Sofi, Nvidia, and Intel, right? Intel is one that we've covered in the past, and we'll get into how that has developed beautifully, actually. I wish I personally still held my Intel, but I wanted to jump into Sofi here because Sofi is one of my favorite charts of stock. It is just so beautiful how it respects support and resistance. But if you guys find this interesting, right, you want to find the passion, right, that I have, slap the subscribe button, hit the like button. Let's get straight into it. So Sofi is really just seen consolidation along this uptrend channel. And from that, we covered back here. This is one of the first posts that we've ever done on this channel. And that was this falling broadening wedge that you were in. You left a gap. All right. Yep. You retested the falling broadening wedge after breaking out. And then we placed this on top. And this is right around where we exited the position because that just happened to line up, right, with this overall channel that every single time you tapped, you got annihilated, just obliterated, right? And from there, the rest is history. Sofi went all the way up to $32, retested multiple times the top of this channel before breaking down. And from this breakdown, right, you've kind of established this very long slide down, traders. In the last, half a year, 50% of the stock's value has capitulated, right? Left the chat. But this is really what we want to cover today is what is the opportunity going into Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Now, we know the stock market is closed tomorrow, but Monday afternoon, right, you'll see overnight trading open up. So what is the opportunity here? You see we charted this falling wedge. We didn't actually play it, but Sofi, for me, has developed as a very interesting swing trade potential, right? You have a falling wedge, breakout, failure swing, and then another wedge-like formation, or at least a channel. And from this channel, guys, you have created pretty much a double bottom here with a monstrous gap at $18 above you. And not only that, but you have multiple touches of bullish divergence along this uptrend here, going all the way back to February, guys. So from the beginning of this downslide, you've made 1, 2, and now a couple multiple other touches of bullish divergence. We'll say 3 or 4 touches on the 4-hour chart, which I love to analyze, right? Just looking back, I like to look at the historical relevance of a stock, right? How does the stock look at or react to bullish divergence? Well, this is a textbook example where you saw the stock slide to a very deep double bottom here in this falling broadening wedge, right? And from that, you saw a touch of bullish divergence, significant lower low in the stock price, but the RSI makes a slightly higher low. From that, you saw an explosive rally, guys, like 284%. This is the kind of bottom that we want to identify, and we want to make sure that it's technically confluent with the rest of the markets, right? Looking at the weekly time frame, taking a little peeky weeky at Sofi here, you have a beautiful setup, right? Look at the double bottom here, and look at the 200-day EMA being tested not just once but twice and respected. So if you see this hold, guys, that is your confirmation, in my opinion, on Sofi to potentially enter a swing here. Is not only do you have the 200-day EMA as support on the weekly time frame, which if you zoom out has very often, right, been resistance and support, resistance, resistance, support, support, and now you have the opportunity to make it support once again. If you lose it, a different story. But what makes this a very interesting swing trade is you can put your stop loss right at the 200-day EMA, and if you lose that stuff, right, it is so easy for you to take 50-cent loss instead of a another swing to an all-time high, that is almost a quadrupling to tripling your money, right? When you talk about the risk to reward ratio here, that is beautiful. Not only that, though, you have the weekly MACD, one of my favorite indicators swinging up. That should bode well if this is a double bottom to potentially ride this thing all the way back up. And kind of what I wanted to close with here on SoFi was let's go to the weekly. Let's take a little peeky weeky at the weekly, if it lets me. I'll have to refresh. SoFi. So let's look at the weekly time frame. And what I'm trying to get here is a couple different things, right? First off, you had very, very significant resistance on the RSI that you've broken out of, and almost like a little bit of a wedge here. As you can see, a weekly falling wedge on the RSI, which typically are explosive. That's what you had here, falling wedge. But you've just broken out of a more macro RSI falling wedge, as well as past the RSI band, and now you're retesting it. So this is even more technical confluence to our thesis here, that if you see this retest successful, it's much likely to go much higher. But if you drop and fail to hold this as support, it's likely you're going for a flush here. And where would that flush lead to? Well, a couple different areas, right? But one in particular that we have highlighted here is a gap fill left during this V line all the way back at 1143. Now that may seem like a long ways away, but 1143 is only 26% away. And it doesn't have to happen, right? These are just probabilities from a gap fill before you go higher, but it does make a little bit of sense if you look at this channel in overall trading, right? Every single time you've touched the top of this channel, you've revisited the bottom of the channel, right? Top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, and you have yet to revisit the bottom. So even if you come down here, right, you see a little blip underneath like you did here before rocketing, it's likely, in my opinion, that if you break beneath your double bottom, hey, maybe the opportunity isn't done yet, but you're just going to have to wait for a little bit, right? I'm not a financial advisor. Don't take this as financial advice, but I'm actively looking at SoFi as a potential swing trade for the upcoming weeks and months, right? But if I wanted to take away anything from SoFi stock that looks nice in our little Sunday SoFi talk, it would be the fact that on the RSI, you are lower than you have been in over 2 years, guys. I mean, this is as low as it gets where my cursor is. This was your previous low on the RSI, and this is where you are today. Pretty much exactly at that point, but you've never seen traders 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 monthly closes in a row. You just haven't, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the next one is green. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 36%. What's another comparison? 1, 2, 3, 18%. 1, 2, 3, 11, and then 26%. So you've literally never seen a 7th red month. I think that bodes well. I think that really bodes well that you're in significant support and resistance right now, and you've never seen this much of an extended sell-off persist for longer than 30 days after entering a trade. I think that the risk to reward here on SoFi is beautiful. I really do. I think that's all I got on SoFi, though. We're going to get into Nvidia. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, that it looks even better, guys. If you go to the daily time frame, your MACD on the daily time frame is about to cross green, baby. So I would say, not financial advice, this looks freaking amazing on SoFi. Going into Nvidia. Nvidia, the largest stock in the world, shows a little bit of sign of bearishness and bullishness, right? There's things to love, things to hate, but we're going to cover it all on Nvidia. I'd like to cover on the 4-hour chart first because you have a touch of hidden bullish divergence as you make an equal low on the RSI while making a higher low, significant higher low on the RSI on the 4 hour as you trade in this rising wedge, right? You had a little bit of a fake out breakout and then a dump back to your support line. So truthfully, if this is a bullish structure for the markets, you're going to see a bounce tomorrow. Tomorrow in after market trading, you should see this thing start to cruise back up. Should, right? If you don't, you could prepare for the worst, as that would just be a retest probably of your previous all-time high, currently sitting at 212.25, right? I mean, I think there's a very real stigma on Nvidia that it just cannot go down, can't stop, won't stop Nvidia. But in case you guys are new, in case you guys weren't here the last 12 months, we did have a long-term thesis on NEO. This was our last video, was that you would see this falling broadening wedge play out. And that's exactly what happened, right? You saw a falling broadening wedge, and that was your profit target. You've officially reached that profit target, traders. So what happens next? It's completely new to what our theses were, but you're in a rising wedge, technical bearish charting pattern. So we're going to see how this plays out. Potentially you go higher one more time, and then you see the technical breakdown theoretically, right? The breakdown, if it happened tomorrow or Tuesday, right, would be 191. That's not that bearish, right? That's really not that bearish, especially when you take into account they just like 1,000x'd their dividend. So I expect a little bit of buying pressure here going into the dividend, I believe it's June 4th is your ex-dividend date, so you have to be in before then. And payment date is June 26. So on Nvidia, the daily looks pretty interesting, actually. Weekly time frame, you saw, actually, daily time frame, I want to cover one more thing on the daily. You saw a touch of bearish divergence here, right? Equal top, or nearly an equal top, and a higher high, right? So it would make sense to see a breakdown here off of that bearish div, but don't be surprised if Nvidia fakes you out. You see one more touch of bearish div before you dump. And it's not going to be crazy. It's not going to be anything wild, but it is possible here that you see this thing really trickle over. Looking at the monthly time frame on Nvidia, let's see. On the monthly time frame on Nvidia, you are printing a green candle up 8%. One thing that I'm really fascinated by, though, and what really gets my cogs churning in my brain is look at the volume profile on the monthly time frame. That is not a bullish monthly time frame volume profile. And this accounts for about 10% of the overall S&P 500. That's not great, right? That is not great. And it really makes me wonder if Michael Burry's onto something with his AI short. Time will tell, of course. I think it'll keep going up until it doesn't. But to see the monthly volume exhaustion over the span of 2 years, right? You are up how much in 2 years? 479% on an S&P 500 index stock, right? And you're down that much in volume. Kind of scary. A little bit. But can't stop, won't stop. Nvidia. NEO video will come on Tuesday. But Nvidia, the only thing that is slightly bearish, besides for the volume profile, is you have a gap fill at 118 left by this crazy run up, just like Sofi, right? A lot of the market has that. But what else we got here on Nvidia? 4 hour chart. Let's see. A little bit of a falling wedge. Yeah, a little bit of a falling wedge on Nvidia. I would expect momentary relief on Tuesday. Hopefully we see stocks and indices rally and we keep pushing the bubble. Keep pushing the bubble along. But I do like Nvidia on the short term. With the long term profit target if you do not break down from the rising wedge, even if you do, right? It just depends on timeline. Taking the macro of the stock, right? There's a lot of room for this thing to run. There really is. Even though you're in this kind of like rising wedge formation, taking the top from 2021, 2024, you've been pretty stagnant in the last 2 years. Even though you saw a dip to 91 and then now you're at 236. In terms of just straight buying pressure, right? You've been relatively stagnant. There is room here to run all the way up to 402. Now that would be crazy valuations for NEO, for Nvidia. But I think it's possible, right? I think it's very possible that Nvidia does that. Daily time frame. Falling wedge pretty evident. 50-day EMA currently at $203 with a local top so it is possible to kind of fail your swing here, back up to 240 and then reject as well from the falling wedge. How far does that pan out? It kind of lines up for possible topping, but it's likely that Nvidia just breaks all of that, right? That's how it always works. Going into our last stock here, though, I wanted to talk about Intel, right? Because Intel has been a stock, one of my proudest moments in charting, actually. I have not touched this chart in approximately about 8 to 10 months. I have not touched this chart. And you can tell how beautifully this Picasso painting is played out. And this is less just a technical update on Intel, but more of just a wow, right? Just look at this trading trajectory. And we pointed this out during the bullish divergence here on the monthly time frame, guys. Look at the lower low, higher low here on the monthly time frame. You had a falling broadening wedge inside of a falling wedge, right? You broke out of both. And from that, we took the technical profit target of the falling broadening wedge when you retested it, and just look at the candles that followed, 114 and 26%. You have now officially reached your profit target from this, and that's also being overbought on the monthly time frame, which on this chart you've done a few times, right? You've done that a few times, but never to this extent. Just straight up is insane. Freaking sane, guys. And if you go on the weekly time frame, come on, Intel. On the weekly time frame for Intel, and what makes me think that we're going to open up green on Tuesday is look at the closes on the weekly time frame. Intel closing with a high volume hammer candle after a bearish looking candlestick formation. Closing with strength at $119 makes me think that you might get one more or two more legs higher before you see this thing kind of spill over for a potential retest of your all-time high, which you never got, right? That's crazy to me. You never even hesitated. As the Gen Zers would say, no hezzy. You just kept on going higher, guys. And when you look at the potential pullback, you have a very valid trend line that established back here in July of 2025. You saw a bounce off of it here, and then your all-time high pursued. So even if you see a flag out, leg higher, and then pull back at some point, that would potentially rely for a decent buying opportunity. I'm not saying that this is going to be a great value play, because you should have been accumulating down here when we first covered it, right? But I just wanted to cover that on not just TradingView, but also Webull. This gives a more clear picture that you had this falling broadening wedge, you had the weekly golden cross, and let's see, I think it was the quarterly MACD. No, you touched the quarterly 200-day EMA. For me, that was just a dead giveaway that this was one of the hottest up-and-coming stocks in the entire market. And you can see the volatility that ensued, guys. It is just a beautiful play and a beautiful setup on Intel. Where it goes next, nobody knows. But I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of Sunday tech breakdown. I'll be doing more of these. I want to do tomorrow AMC GameStop, Tuesday Neostock, and then Wednesday Wacky Wednesday. You guys get a crazy stock then. But until then, traders, the best is yet to come. Always subscribe and like the video. And of course, God bless you and family. The best is yet to come.